As I reported the other day, Guillermo Rigondeaux called out Carl Frampton shortly after Frampton's victory over Leo Santa Cruz on the weekend. And no sooner had Rigondeaux called him out, Carl Frampton came out at a press conference and also through some other media channels and said that he will not be answering Guillermo Rigondeaux's challenge. He's not interested in that fight. To paraphrase Carl Frampton, he basically said, Rigondeaux is a great fighter, but he's not great for me financially. So he's hiding behind the excuse of finances, as fighters often do when they are worried about getting in the ring with a particular individual for fear of losing. That's what it really is. It's the same thing Canelo's been doing for a while now with Triple G, although he also uses weight as an excuse, but finances have also been used as an excuse by Canelo and Golden Boy before as a reason why they're not fighting Triple G. So what Frampton is doing is no different than that. Frampton is at featherweight now. Rigondeaux is still super bantamweight. So unless Rigondeaux moves up to featherweight and starts chasing Frampton around again like he was at super bantam, then technically on this particular occasion, you can't call Frampton not fighting Rigondeaux a duck. Rigondeaux has to move up and then chase him around. And if Frampton still refuses, then you can say he was ducking. But certainly when they were both at super bantamweight, Frampton was shamelessly ducking Rigondeaux. No excuses. It's no different than what Canelo Alvarez has been doing with Triple G. I know Canelo and Golden Boy have also been using weight as an excuse, particularly recently, but prior to that, they were using the money situation as an excuse, saying that Triple G's not box office and this, that, and the other. Well, Triple G's not the biggest name in the world, and by himself, he's not box office. But he's certainly well known enough to do a pay-per-view with Canelo. No question about it. I'm sure he would do better numbers than Canelo did in the United States. I'm talking about Triple G versus Canelo, definitely. And with Carl Frampton, he's a very big name in the UK and Ireland. He could fight a circus dwarf and it would still do good numbers in the UK. So this idea that him versus Rigondeaux wouldn't sell is just total BS. The British boxing community is very strong and it's very tight-knit. Britain is a small country geographically, but within the small country is a large population. Britain is about the size of the state of Florida, but it has a population far larger than Florida. There are several major cities within the UK. Imagine having, say, New York City, Chicago, Detroit, and several other big American cities all in the state of Florida. That's basically what you have with the UK. There's plenty of big cities. It's all very tight-knit. So when you want to market a fight and you've got such a large population in a small geographical area and they're all on this, most of them are on the same television networks and all that type of stuff and reading the same type of newspapers, it's so easy to market something compared to how it is in the United States when people are separated by thousands of miles, East Coast and West Coast, etc. So Carl Frampton versus Rigondeaux absolutely would sell. The idea that, Rigondeaux has to go away and build himself up, it's just pure BS. Rigondeaux was shamelessly avoided by Frampton, Santa Cruz, and by Scott Quigg. In fact, Golden Boy, through Oscar De La Hoya, came out when Frampton was still, just after Frampton left Golden Boy. De La Hoya came out and said, I was trying to make Santa Cruz versus Rigondeaux. And as soon as I tried to make the fight, Santa Cruz left. And in fact, you can see interviews with De La Hoya leading up to Santa Cruz leaving. Okay, when he was still with Golden Boy, maybe a few weeks before that. And De La Hoya saying, yeah, I'm trying to make Santa Cruz versus Rigondeaux. So here we have Carl Frampton, who I rate as a fighter, by the way. Just because I'm criticizing him for ducking Rigondeaux, it don't mean I don't rate him. I do think Carl Frampton is a very good fighter. I like his style. I like the way he boxes. I certainly like the way he boxed against Santa Cruz. Didn't like the way he boxed against Scott Quigg. That has to be said. But nonetheless, just because I'm criticizing him, it don't mean I like him. But what you have, I don't mean I don't like him. But what you have here is a situation where the three guys who shamelessly ducked Guillermo Rigondeaux at Super Bantam are fighting. Well, at least Carl Frampton's fought the other two guys. And people are jumping up and down and acting as though Carl Frampton has done something great. How has he done anything great? People are talking about Carl Frampton being the best pound for pound fighter in the UK because he beat Leo Santa Cruz and Scott Quigg, two guys who ducked Rigondeaux. What? Carl Frampton has never faced the best fighter in his division. How in the world could you put him above Tyson Fury pound for pound in the UK rankings? That's insanity. Imagine if Tyson Fury had been getting called out by Vladimir Klitschko for ages. And Tyson Fury fought, let's say, Ruslan Chagayev and beat Chagayev. And he was running around with a WBA belt. And Vladimir Klitschko was like, saying, come on, let's fight. And Tyson Fury was like, no, I'm not going to fight. And then he went and fought Wilder and beat Wilder. And Tyson Fury was running around with belts, not fighting Vladimir Klitschko. Would you get excited about the fact that Fury had done that? Because that's literally what Frampton's done. But Fury, no. In reality, Fury went and fought the best guy in the division and beat him hands down. That's why Fury gets credit for that. And that's why, for me, I think it's an insult to Fury to be putting Frampton above him in the UK pound for pound list. Yeah, Frampton has beat who? Kiko Martinez, Scott Quigg, and Leo Santa Cruz. But none of those guys were the best guy in the division. That's like Tyson Fury beating a few contenders and not beating Vladimir Klitschko. That's really what it's like. And Tyson Fury has beaten former world champions in Steve Cunningham. Yeah, world champion from a different division, but when you look at those lower weights, like Carl Frampton's in, I mean, he's a big guy. He fought Kiko Martinez, who's a small guy. You get what I'm telling you? Obviously, there's not as big a difference between Martinez and Frampton as Fury and Cunningham, but still. Eventually, Fury fought the very best guy in the division, a guy who'd been reigning for, 10 years? And beat him hands down? So, yeah, I think Frampton is getting way more credit than he should be getting at this particular point in time. And I think it's all just to do with how high profile him and Santa Cruz's fight was. Forget about the high profile nature of the fight in terms of the fan interest. Let's look at the actual credibility. The best guy in the featherweight division at the moment is, and I'm talking about in the court of public opinion here, most people would say it's probably Gary Russell Jr. Some people might even say Lee Selby. For Santa Cruz being the best at featherweight, I don't see it. I don't see any type of argument for that. I think it's got to be between Gary Russell Jr. and Lee Selby. So, yeah, I think Frampton's, fight the best in your division, Carl Frampton. And then I'll be able to give you some credit for that. Then I'll be able to say, all right, maybe he can challenge Fury in terms of being pound for pound number one in British boxing. But not until then. And this whole thing with Rigondeaux, we'll see where it goes. We'll see whether Rigondeaux steps up to steps up to featherweight. He is very small. I've said this before. He's really not big enough for featherweight Rigondeaux. And that's another thing that makes the fact that Frampton and Quigg and Santa Cruz avoided Rigondeaux for so long. This is what makes it even worse. All three of those guys are huge compared to Guillermo Rigondeaux. Huge guys. And yet none of them would fight him at super bantamweight. People, come on. This is a guy who's like 30, 35, 36, Rigondeaux. Makes super bantamweight easy. I mean, at a push, he could probably go down to bantamweight still. That's how small he is. These guys were scared to death of getting in the ring with him, hiding behind the excuse of money and all this business. BS. I don't accept it. And if any of you are objective, consistent, and unbiased, you won't accept it either. Did you accept it when Adonis Stevenson ducked Sergey Kovalev a couple of years ago? There was an agreement in place for him to fight Kovalev on HBO, and Stevenson ducked and went over to Showtime because he said, well, Showtime are going to pay me more money. So if Kovalev wants to fight, it has to be on Showtime. So he ducked for financial reasons. He started, oh, well, I need more money, so this is what it is. And at the time, Kovalev wasn't a big name. So it's the same as Carl Frampton ducking Rigondeaux. Kovalev wasn't a big name when Stevenson left HBO. Kovalev was fighting on Stevenson's undercards. Yeah, he fought Ishmael Silak on Adonis Stevenson's undercard. The guy was literally unknown outside of hardcore boxing circles. Stevenson was the pay-per-view guy. You didn't give Stevenson a pass for that, so I don't expect you to give Carl Frampton a pass for this. Yeah? Let's be consistent here, people. So that's my stance on it. We'll see what Guillermo Rigondeaux does. I think he's just going to have to find somebody at super bantamweight to fight. I don't think none of these guys who have moved up are going to look back and even consider him as a potential opponent. So it is what it is. Let me know how you feel in the comment section below, people. It's your boy Hatman. I'm out.